Hello, scholars, and welcome back. This is week 3 of POL 450, Research Methods for Political Science. I hope we all had a successful week 2, and now as we change gears into week 3. As we talked earlier in this course, I hope you remember that we were going to take a slight detour in week 2 when we talked about the IRB process and the ethical considerations that we have to understand, utilize, and apply when we're doing research. So here in week 3, we're back on track. And our focus this week is that we need to formulate that research question. We need to understand what a research question is. Understand that it's not a survey question. It's going to be the all-encompassing question that your research is going to want to answer. We need to figure out how to write a research question, how to make it an applicable research question, to make sure that it is a research question that we have the ability to not necessarily answer, but one that we could study and get some results from, and that it applies to our overall topic, and that it is political science based. So that's going to be really our focus today. And this is, as we talked earlier, this is the foundation. If you put the time and effort this weekend and create a strong research question, the rest is going to build itself very, very easily. If you have a weak research question, you're going to find that the rest of your project struggles. So we really need to apply ourselves this week. When you send in your research questions this week, I'll read through them very finely with a fine-tooth comb and try to make sure that they are applicable, that they're worthy, and that they're something that you can work with for the remainder of this course. Don't be surprised if when you write your research questions this week and with this assignment that there are some follow-ups. This is what we need to do with this assignment. If it isn't perfect, we're going to get some follow-up, we're going to get some advice, we're going to get some fine-tuning so that we can move forward from this point. So let's break down this week. So we're going to start with our reading assignments. And with our reading assignments this week, we have Chapter 2, which is Getting Started, Finding a Research Question, which is a great chapter to read through, to stuff about like how we need to word it, how we need to identify this puzzle, using advice to generate questions, starting your question concisely and directly. So it's a great chapter. And then that kind of builds into our Chapter 4, which is making sense of the scholarly answer to your research question, which is going to be that literature review, that second chapter, or that annotated bibliography. So we want to make sure that we can write a research question and that it's one that we can research. And if it fits both of those molds, if it fits what they talk about in Chapter 2 and Chapter 4, then you probably have a decent research question. So with that, there's a series of PowerPoints that are introduced this week. The first one is how concepts, operationalization, and measurement. And this operation, or how we need to operationalize variables, is going to be one of the keys to writing your research question. So when we talk about operationalizing variables, I'll give you an example. A real simple question would be, let's say, do people who go to CBU make good citizens? So when we look through that, we would operationalize each variable. Do people? So people, would that be students? Is that faculty? Is that staff? What would we define people as being? And the beauty of a research study is you get to operationalize the variables. So when it says, do people who go to CBU, people I've defined in this sort of study are students that attend CBU are what I define as people. Then go to CBU. Do they make better people? Do they make better citizens? Whatever we're going to talk about. The next thing is, how would you operationalize better? And that's one of those difficult words. And that's one of those things that we're probably going to need to address, because what would you define as being better? Is it the amount of income they make? Is it their social engagement? Is their political engagement? Is it do they vote? Is it their health? What would you operationalize good as being? And the beauty, once again, is you get to define that. So when you write your research question, be prepared to operationalize your variables. Sometimes it will be very quantitative based in numbers, and sometimes it'll be very qualitative based. But we need to be able to operationalize. So there's a PowerPoint here and a YouTube video that supports it, and this will be really helpful because as you write that research question, you'll need to know how to operationalize. And for many of you, when you write it, I will give you feedback as I want to know how you're going to operationalize. How are you going to define some of these different variables? And that is just a part of doing research, and it's one of the better parts of doing research because you actually then can fine tune what you're looking for. You know, if we talked about people that attend CBU, that might be very broad. So if you might want to narrow that down to how do individuals between the ages of 20 and 24 that attend CBU, are they better citizens? How about females between the ages of 20 and 24? You can see how now you can really start to dissect and get a much more accurate results of your study. So, and that's one of the beauties of us having the latitude to operationalize our variables. So one of the other um, um, PowerPoints we have is actually how to write a research question. Now, we're only going to need to write one research question for our study. So we don't need variable research questions, just one. And in this class, even though some of your studies might be taking a lot of different maybe directions, stick to one question. Make it simple, make it precise, make it concise, make it so that we can actually do the study with one variable. And I think that will really help us out. So now that we have some lectures on how to write a research question, we're going to go into our assignments this week. So our first assignment is the actual writing a research question. So this one's going to be due Sunday at 11:59. That's going to be November 17th, and there's 25 points available. So let me read through this. This week you will write a problem statement, a purpose statement, and begin to write the research question or hypothesis. Framing the problem statement and research question is one of the most difficult research tasks that any researchers face. Therefore, be prepared to spend a substantial amount of time and thought in completing this exercise. A good problem statement and research question will make the rest of the paper flow smoothly. An ill-informed or poorly worded question will complicate the rest of the writing process. The details of the assignment and its structure are given below. In addition, pay particular attention to Table 2.4 in the textbook to see how a research question is generated from topic. So here's the structure of the assignment. Define the problem. 2 to 3 paragraphs describing a particular issue or problem related to political science. The second part, describe the purpose of the study. Keep in mind that it is hard to prove or explain things. You are better off trying to explore a question. 3, define the concepts you will be discussing. Maybe legal definitions, maybe social, psychological, medical definitions. Define the operationalize the variables that will measure the concepts. They may be qualitative or quantitative. And give your explanations about how the variables are related in the form of a research question. So you can see that there's multiple parts there. So we're going to have several pieces of this. We're going to have our problem statement, our purpose statement, and our research question. And remember, in week 2, there was a very clear example of a completed prospectus. So you can take a look at that and kind of get a good idea of what we're thinking about when you write a problem statement, a purpose statement, and a research question. You'll find all of those in chapter 1 of that example. So here's an example that we've talked about, and this is talking about, it's when we were going through the water restrictions. So the problem, California is in the middle of a serious drought and local governments are looking for ways to conserve water supplies. One tactic used by cities and county administrators is ask residents to cut back on their water usage. However, this tactic has had mixed results. Some residents have managed to cut their water usage and some have chosen not to restrict. So that's the problem. The purpose of the study is to explore the reasons that residents of Riverside County, California choose to restrict or choose not to restrict their water use. The concepts. The concepts to be defined are drought and water usage. The variables. Drought should have a legal or scientific definition and will be needed for this research. Water usage is defined in acres feet per family and will need to be researched. And that's just the concepts of how one gets water. Your water bill is in acres feet per family. The expectations leading to the research, I expect to find that there are various reasons that residents have or have not changed their water usage. Some of the reasons may be philosophical or economical or cultural. And here is our research question. Have the residents of Riverside County, California changed their water usage habit over the past year? Or have they chosen not to change their usage over that same period of time? And what reasons do they give for their decision? Now, this might sound foolish, but your research question has to be formulated in a question. Your research question needs to be formulated in a question. There needs to be a question mark at the end. So I see a lot of people make statements and not questions. So there's a good example. Here's the grading criteria. You need to integrate all components. So this is a big assignment this week. Remember, those are three major portions that we're going to write. So I need all of these answered. Three major portions with the addition of the variables and the expectations. So you have, in essence, 6 different paragraphs or 6 different sections, and each one of these could be multiple paragraphs. Submit all ungraded and the assignment to college level writing skills through correct grammar, spelling, APA citations, and references. So once again, look in chapter 1 of the example that I have in week 2, and you should be good. For our application exercise this week, it's going to be about those operationalizing variables. So it's a quiz. There is no time limit to the quiz, but it must be completed in one setting. And like before, you can complete the quiz and then you complete it. You have 2 chances at it. So once you complete it, you'll have a second chance to go through it again to see if you can improve from your first time. But remember, the key is one opportunity. So make sure you have good time management, sit down and complete this. And once again, due date, Sunday, 11:59, needs to be completed and submitted prior to 11:59. And then finally this week we have our week 3 journal. Remember, journals are wrote in a manner as if we were talking. Reflect on last week's IRB application assignment. Your response to each of the prompts should be, you should have some substance and demonstrate writing skills appropriate for a 4th-year college course. Prior to last week, were you aware that there was an IRB, an Institutional Review Board at CBU? Now that you have completed the IRB exercise, do you have a better understanding of the importance and rigor of ethical oversight in academic research? Why or why not? And how would you explain the role and importance of IRB to a fellow student who has not embarked on a research study? So once again, this is an informal writing assignment. So we don't need citations and title pages and reference pages. But on the other hand, this does need to be academic writing, and I want substance to each one of those answers. So go in depth, do some quality research, do some quality answers, and make sure that it's academic and at the 4th-year college writing level. The rubric, once again, is there. So 3 deliverables this week, a big ticket item. If you can get through the written assignment number 3 and get those major components of your first chapter of the perspective solid and get a nice firm foundation, I guarantee you that this course is going to become a lot easier, and it'll be fluid for the weeks to come. If you do not commit to this week and you spend very little time, you're going to struggle in the weeks to come. And you're going to get to the point where you are probably going to struggle as the chapters build and as you try to build the complexity of your study. So take the time, put in the effort this week. It will pay dividends. Like I'm going to tell you every week, if you have any issues, concerns, or questions, get a hold of me as soon as possible. I don't think there's much that we cannot solve if we just ask. So get a hold of me, email me, answer those questions. If you, my assumption that I always have is that if I'm not hearing from you, it's because everything's going so well, and you're just, you're just killing it in this course, and you're just completing your assignments without any questions, and that's my assumption. So if I'm not hearing from you, I assume everything's going good. So if you have any questions, concerns, comments, email me. We'll solve those. We'll move forward. Understand that we have a strict due date on all the assignments this week that will be strictly enforced, especially as we move through this course and now that we're in week 3. Stay diligent. I look forward to reading all your research questions. I'll keep you in my thoughts and prayers. Have a successful week, and I look forward to reading everything and talking to you later on. Bye for now.